This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Make room in your heart for all of you. The loving, kind, doubting, fearful you. The angry, caring, silly you. The messy, daring, relaxed you. The brave, sad, adorable you. Make room in your heart for all of you. The forgiving, wise, impatient you. Make room in your heart for you, all of you. Susan Lax. Valeria Teles interviews Susan Lax, the author of A Heart's Landscape, an invitation to the Garden of Moments. Susan, like each of you, has a story. The chapters of her story continue to add pages, presenting an ever-growing passion for sharing the healing gifts of awareness. Susan offers spiritual coaching and care for many, including those touched by illness and loving someone through death. She leads workshops and guided meditation sessions. In 2010, she began writing Morning Inspiration and Email for Your Soul. In addition, Susan is a certified Reiki practitioner. The co-owner of Nayat Footwear, Susan spends her moments between New York and Tel Aviv, together with her partner in life and love. They share the joy of 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren. Meet Susan at susanplax.com. Here's the interview with Susan Lax.
In your own words, who is Susan Lax?
I'm part of the wonderful world of human spirits.
How did you uncover that truth?
I think living life with awareness and with an attentive heart is really what allowed me, Valeria, to realize that it is the connections between the human spirits that make life the experience it is, for the good and for the bad. But it is the connections between human spirits. And I think that when I define myself as being part of the human spirit, of the world of human spirits, it is because my story is unique to me. There's no other person like me in the world. And just like there's no other person like you, and no 2 stories are the same, and no 2 spirits are the same.
And the question that comes to mind is how to describe what it feels like when we are connected and inspired by the spirit world.
So I believe every human being is spiritual.
Yeah.
Because there's a spirit within all of us. So that doesn't make one person more spiritual than the other. It just means that someone perhaps tapped in deeper to their spirituality.
Right.
So I think that all people that are given an invitation or are in one way or another to tap into this spirituality become inspired. It's quite simple and in that sense. And I think that it is that one little moment, Valeria, of awareness, that just one moment that allows us to then create many, many moments after that of inspiration, because it doesn't really take that much to be inspired. right?
Oh,
I
wow.
asked one of my clients, I said to them, when was the last time that you looked in the mirror and said, I'm so inspired by myself?
I love that. Is that a practice?
Which part of that?
Yeah, all of it. Becoming aware. Yeah, because that makes so much sense to me. Because it is even a split moment of awareness can change everything.
It is. It is a practice in the sense of all of us at some point in our lives go through some kind of trauma, Valeria. And there's no trauma that is bigger or smaller because trauma is trauma. And to that same spirit and soul that is going through it, it's earthquaking, right? Whatever it is, even if it's a short trauma. And I think when we go through these traumas that somehow are on our paths, we have choices, right? And many times those choices, we're unable to get to them because we don't have the tools. And so one of the tools that I offer people that I work with that are either touched by cancer or illness, or sometimes just a life experience that has hardened their heart for whatever reason, is a practice of awareness, is a practice of saying, well, take one moment, that's 60 seconds, then less than most people should be brushing their teeth.
Yeah, yes.
is is really just to either sit in stillness or to look with an attentive eye, which is belongs to your attentive heart. It's just a tool that your heart uses to see better. And it is, wow. And all of a sudden, when you start doing that as a routine, it becomes part of you. It's not something that disappears. And I've been doing this for years and years and years. And it is something that enabled me to really be extremely, extremely grateful.
It's meditation, something that helps when it comes to becoming aware of what it's already here.
So the way I look at meditation and the way I practice meditation is, when we wake up in the morning, one of the first things that most people do is they go to the bathroom and they brush their teeth and they wash their face. So meditation is a way that the soul wakes up. It's not a way that we sometimes people say to me, yes, but if you meditate, you can fall asleep. Meditate, you're just allowing your soul and yourself to be with nothing else there. And that's really when it's most awake. When it does not have all these other distractions. But meditation for some people can be, I hear from them, they say to me, Susan, I don't have time. It's too hard. Meditation, there's not right or wrong. There's no challenge of meditation. There's no, there's no meditation. If it's for 1 minute, if it's for 30 seconds, meditations again is a path of awareness. We're allowing us to be, just to be.
Just the thought of it, it's interesting. It makes me breathe deeper. It's that space to just be. The being and the doing. Can we find a balance between them? Even when we are doing something, can we still be?
So I'm going to share with you. I think when I share with you my thoughts about balance, I think that word is used way too much in today's world because that then often puts the path in front of someone. I'm not balancing, so I'm not succeeding. And then I'm falling over on one side. And I think balancing is for a bicycle, right? Balancing, and if you think on a bicycle, if you don't balance, you fall over. And I don't want to think that we go through our moments trying not to fall all the time. I want to think that we go through our moments because they're here, because they're a gift, because without them we wouldn't be experiencing. So I try to be careful with that word balance and saying, and instead I really believe that doing and being are part of who we are. right? It's part of how we maneuver ourselves here. And so, but when we lose the sense of being and only do the doing, we lose senses. That's exactly it. We lose senses. We feel less, we see less, we hear less, we taste less, we love less. And so that's really how I look at that. It's not about, it shouldn't be equal. It is what it is. And sometimes we are doing more than we are being because this is the life we are in. And sometimes we are being more than we are doing. But it doesn't have to be equal, because then we could trip and fall.
It makes me think about unconditional love, isn't it? Being present to what is present here now. And even if
Correct.
it is the doing and the being more or less, it doesn't matter. It's just being present to whatever comes.
So you mentioned unconditional love. And, I think that love should never be hard. When loving yourself is hard, and I talk about ourselves, right? Then we have to mend that. We have to make it so it's not hard, because then we can be present. And being present doesn't mean that every second, oh my, I look at that, look at that, look at that. Being present is just giving yourself those moments during our days that allow for an attentive heart. And once we allow ourselves that attentive heart, Valeria, wow, then we are, wow, that's really what it is. Then that unconditional love has doors to go through. It has paths to reach our heart.
Yeah, I do understand. And I love how you talk about balance and not trying to live a balanced life because the trying it already gets in the way of
Mm-hmm.
being free. So
Mm-hmm.
the question is, what is freedom to you?
What is freedom? What a beautiful question. So, what is freedom? I think freedom is just being me.
Right. Yes, a trillion times to that.
Freedom is just
Yeah.
being me, is freedom to allow love to flow through me. Freedom is allowing me to listen to what the passions of my heart are. Freedom is letting myself breathe, because that's what I want to do at that moment, and not because I'm doing it to survive. That's
Right.
freedom.
Yes, a trillion times. I could say even more. I would say now more yeses to that, infinite yeses to that freedom that you speak of. And another question I have is your idea of spirituality.
Mhm.
How do you define spirituality these days?
Spirituality is awakening of your spirit. That's all. It's really quite simple. I think spirituality is something that allows our spirit to dance. Valeria, I share with my clients and my patients, and in my writings, if you've read my book, I talk about dance. I actually, my father was Cuban, so I have that dance in me, physically. But I really believe that when you can dance around the room just because, that's awakening your spirit, and that's your spirituality coming to its fruition.
Oh yeah, you're about to say something, Susan.
So I do believe that sometimes there are things that are deeper within us that our spirit allows us to get to, right? And so when we open our heart and ourselves and say, okay, I'm willing to bring that knowledge into my heart. I'm willing to bring those feelings into my heart. I'm willing to feel that. That's spirituality. That's not taking everything for granted.
Right. The dance, yeah, I use that word a lot too. Instead of balance, I use the word dance, dancing with life, with whatever comes our way. With that in mind, the question that comes to mind is how do we learn to dance with uncomfortable feelings and emotions and negativity and all that is part of life as well?
Yes. So it's as if you knew what I was doing on Monday. Yes.
Ah.
So actually, on Monday,
Yeah.
I'm going to be holding a live on Facebook about how to unlock a moment of joy each day. And how do you tap into joy amongst the most challenging of times? So, joy is an emotion. It's not something we can search for. It's not something that we can look for. Just like it's one of our emotions. It lives within us. It's there all the time. And we just have to learn how to tap into it. And as I told you before, there is that toolbox, right? So each of us have different things when those challenging or dark or grief or loss or pain appear. We learn to have or to build a toolbox. And in that toolbox are the tools that are unique to each one of us that can help us just one moment of joy, Valeria, just one. And there's always room for one moment. There's always one moment of joy that can find a place in your day. And in the most darkest of challenging times, if we have that toolbox and we know, okay, I'm going to look in my toolbox or I'm going to know what's in there. And that's what I'm going to use to just get one moment of joy, because one moment of joy is contagious.
Yeah.
And it can get us through the next 5 moments of challenge.
What a beautiful practice to engage in. Thank you so much again, Susan, for doing what you do. I would love to talk a little bit more about joy. I use that word too. It came to me through inspiration. And I often kind of think about happiness differently. Do you have a different idea or different ideas when it comes to joy and happiness, or are they the same?
Love, love, love that question. So
Yeah.
thank you. So I think joy is an emotion. I think it's something that lives within us. And I believe that it is the way, and happiness lives within us as well. And they're both within us. We can't go and find them outside. You know, there are some people that say, I've been searching for joy. And I'll say to them, okay, let's sit down for a second. I'll tell you where
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
But happiness is many times the way it is manifested, the way that emotion is manifested. And I think for me, that's probably the difference. It's because joy lives there, and happiness is something that will let the joy come out. It will allow the joy to expand. And when we have joy, it doesn't always mean that the happiness will be out there. And when we have happiness, it doesn't always mean that we'll be in a joyful moment. And I find that happiness is something, joy is for me is a little bit deeper. It's something that takes a little more work.
I absolutely agree. There's something about the idea of joy that implies to me that it's, like you said, it's already there and it has no reason to be even. It's like I can be joyful right now with no reason at all.
Right.
It's almost like this being aware that something's happening, that I'm here and listening to you. This is already fulfillment. This is already like an amazing opportunity to land in joy, in the territory, in the planet joy. It really kind of comes to me that way. And when it comes to happiness, I wonder if you make the same association I do at this level. There's something to do with pleasure. like the physical senses, like food and sex and being touched and hugged. How does pleasure fit into joy and happiness? I guess that's the question I want to ask.
Right. So there's three different things. You brought in pleasure.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
So again, I think pleasure is another way that joy manifests. It's a way, it's when someone asked me, Susan, how do you, in an interview I did this week, how do you feel joy? How do you feel it? And I said, wow. And I sang. I just sang
Wow.
because joy does not necessarily have words. And pleasure, if someone says, where did you feel that pleasure? How was that pleasurable to you? Most likely, not always, we'll be able to explain that in words. Joy, I don't feel always has a way of words. That for me is probably a big difference.
Yeah. I love that you start to sing. Show me joy.
Yeah,
I
and I
love that
don't have a
idea.
good voice.
Oh my God, Susan, that sounds wonderful. It doesn't need, yeah, you're right. It doesn't need, right? It just is.
No, it just is. Joy is just there. It's up to us, though. It's really up to us to tap into it, right?
Yeah, to invite it to be
Yes, to tap
expressed,
it
right?
in. To tap it in, even if we don't make it vocal. It's just for us. It's just for us. I can walk down the street and all of a sudden smile, just because. And that's a practice, talking about routines and practices that I work with people and I give them an assignment once every hour. Smile for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's an alarm clock for the joy.
So you wrote the book, A Heart's Landscape, an invitation to the Garden of Moments. Talk to me for a moment about the main inspiration, how you became inspired to write this book, and also the intention behind the work.
So 13 years ago, a dear friend of mine was touched by cancer. And at the time, I was I still am a spiritual counselor. And I mainly worked with women who had mastectomies and pre or post or other issues with cancer. And this friend of mine did not want anyone to reach out via cancer to her. And so she asked to be left alone. And she's a dear friend. She is a dear friend of mine. I missed her. So I started writing an email and I wrote her an email and said, I'm going to be sending you these emails. And I would get up at 6 a.m. to write them because I knew she was an early riser and I knew she was going for treatments around 6:30. And I said to her, if you don't want to receive them, just write back to me and say, Susan, stop writing them. Or if you don't want to respond, you don't have to respond. But I'm going to keep writing them. And my intent when I started writing the morning inspiration was that my friend Stephanie would not identify as cancer, that she would still remember or still know that she was Stephanie. Cancer touched her life, but she was still Stephanie. And that, as we talked before, even in the most darkest of moments, a moment of joy can awaken that joy in us that is kind of really having a hard time right now. And so I would just write about things that were happening and never mention cancer or illness. And after about 7 months, I came down with the flu and I didn't get up to write to her. And at 7:30, the phone rang and I knew her voice.
Mm.
And she said to me, where is my morning blessing?
Yeah. Oh,
And
wow.
so I continued to write them. And in the meanwhile, I told the story to all these women that I were working. I did a lot of workshops. And I said to them, and they said, wow, we would like to be part of this. Can you please send it to us? So Morning Inspiration was born. And I started by word of mouth. I never, ever marketed it, Valeria. I don't even know how it happened. It just expanded around the world. And people would say to me, why don't you put these in a book? And my intent always was that the morning inspiration is about reaching a person that needs it. And most of the people that receive morning inspiration, I've never met, the majority of them. And so, and I don't know. And some people read it once a month, and some people read it 3 times a week, and some people read it once every half a year. No, this is not for me. That's theirs. And so during COVID, I was on lockdown.
An
And I
opportunity.
said,
Yeah.
this is the moment. This is the moment. And out of 3,624 morning inspirations, I narrowed them down to about 135, I think. So it was a process of seeing how I evolved, how my writing evolved, how my audience evolved. It's no longer just people that are touched by cancer. Now it's anybody and everybody. And it's male and female and everything in between. And it's, yeah, and it is, and my intent is that it finds that little corner in the world where that person is sitting that needs a moment to lift their spirit. That was my intent. And that was all I hope, and I hoped that this book will do.
It's very challenging for most of us to even know what to say when somebody's going through difficult moments, especially when it has to do with death.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to use words to express that, or to try to make people feel better? Or can our presence be that comfort that they need? Sometimes I wonder, because I love to talk, and sometimes I talk too much around some people around me who are going through a lot of challenges. Going back to the dance, that idea of dancing, how do we balance words and presence?
So, very good question. I get asked that a lot. And I think our job, if we are being with someone who is grieving or going through something really hard, is not to make it better. We can't make it better. We can't. But we can show up for them. And so there are 2 things that I would suggest is I write in there, just be with her. That's one of my favorites. And in there I say, just be there with her, because it is in your hand that she will find the courage. It is not necessarily in the words, right? I believe that. So sometimes just holding a hand or just sitting there and being there presently with the intention of an attentive heart of good, of compassion, and of love. And then I usually will say to that person, how can I show up for you? How can I show up for you? It's not telling them what should be, what they should do. One should not tell someone else what to do with their grief.
Right. So true.
And no grief is the same. And therefore, I'm not a strong believer in the 5 stages of grief, because then people have said, but I'm not feeling it. Am I not dealing with grief okay? No, you are where you are. And so how can I show up for you is really, and most of the time, people will either tell you or they'll just say by being here. And that's it. And if we can release the job that perhaps sometimes we feel we have to make it better, we will be freer, and we will free them from feeling that they have to make us feel like that we made them feel better.
I know from my own experience that some people, especially men for some reason, they're not so good at expressing themselves and asking for help, or having women or anybody supporting them. So I wonder if we can show up spontaneously without asking the question, but kind of coming to visit and bring something that they used to like or they still like. Is that something that you suggest as well? Or
every person and every spirit, like we said, is individual, right? And if we feel that we want to go visit someone, in the Jewish tradition, we sit for a week when someone passes to the next world. We call it Shiva, which we sit for 7 days, right? And in the house, people don't have to ask. They just come. They just are. And that's one of the Jewish traditions that I think is so helpful.
Yeah.
So helpful.
Uh,
Because, grief, people just don't always know what to do with it. And so I think, number one, the worst thing that can happen when you ask someone, can I come over, is they can say no. That's all.
yeah. Yeah. When you think about it, right.
That's like the worst. Yep. Yep.
You're a spiritual counselor and you lead workshops, guided meditations. Of course, you offer spiritual care. Talk to me for a moment, Susan. How do you engage with your clients or audience, online, offline, groups?
Well, COVID has changed everything.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
there is life, COVID life.
Yes.
So pre-COVID, clients I would work with either like Skype around the world, but not through Skype necessarily, or I will go to people's homes or I will go to hospitals. That is just if that is a situation that I'm able to help in. And then I also have people that come to me just to talk, clients. And I also workshops, I lead them on the various subjects. And pre-COVID, I was doing workshops. But now everything is Zoom, and I love doing that. I love interacting with people and spirits and hearing them, just like I'm enjoying interacting with you now and learning from your story. And I put that in my heart's book. I have a book of stories, right? Book of people. And so I believe that that's what makes this world so great, is our stories. And yep, that's how basically I work with people, is on Zoom these days more than ever. But on this book tour, I will be going different places, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's a beautiful invitation for an adventure, a heart adventure. I love the title of your book. And of course, I love the messages there too. And there are so many of them that caught my attention. I would love to kind of read some of them. We talked earlier about joy and how it's already there. It has no reason to be. In your book, you say, there's a phrase where you say, practice a smile for no reason and with no expectation.
Yeah.
That's a powerful message. When I came across it, it just stopped me.
Mm.
And then you say, the gift of the moment will keep on giving.
Mm-hmm.
They are just random. I just got my eyes went right there. And you say, sometimes we wait for the best moment, but every day they are best moments.
Correct.
So true. It's kind of waiting to be happy, right? Some of us wait for something to happen.
Right.
But it's right. It's here. Happiness is here. It's not there.
Yeah. Right. Everything is here.
Everything is here. Right, Susan. Right.
Everything. And yes. And I think that, moments, in every moment, there's always the possibility, in every day, there's always a moment that good will show up.
I mean, this is so true. Everything is here. So it is becoming aware enough to see the options, to see what's already here. It was never hidden in the first place. It's just kind of, it is in a way expanding our view, isn't it? So we can see more of what's already here.
Totally. It's like going out to your backyard or out to your street, and you've lived there for 20 years, and then all of a sudden noticing something and going, wow,
Yeah.
wow, how did I never see this?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? So, and I wonder why this is almost like an automatic, that narrow view of life. It seems to be almost the operating system. Is that because of programming, conditionings?
It's called automatic pilot.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's what it is. We get on automatic pilot, and then when you're on automatic pilot, you don't have to stop, right? And so pausing allows us to be aware and to be in an attentive moment and then allow ourselves to have an attentive heart. But when you're on automatic pilot, you don't pause.
Right. So the pause is there so important. And we see that in breathing, right? Breathing. There's a pause. There's, I think, the heartbeat too. The way it beats, there's a pause there. So it's interesting how it's built in, that pause. It's here too, but we don't.
Totally, totally. And one of the first things I do when I start any kind of workshop or start working with anybody, I ask them to take their hand, and maybe you'll do it while you're here with me. Take your hand and put it on your heart and close your eyes for a second and just take a new breath. And then you feel your heart beating. That beat is the miracle of you.
There are so many messages in your book, way too many. Let me see, there's another one. Oh, yeah, you're saying one that has to do with what we're talking now. You say, invite a new heart view into your moment. It is amazing what the heart can see with a new pair of glasses. That made me laugh, actually. Like,
good, I'm glad.
I was like, I was visualizing the heart wearing glasses, like funny. It was playful.
Yes,
It's cute and so true. And then you say, courage has offered me the ability to reveal my shortcomings, to embrace vulnerability. That's another powerful message. Yeah, we are a lot of times afraid to be open and to be vulnerable, but that has so much power in it. To me, is one of the most powerful expressions in the human experience, within the human experience, being open.
When we're vulnerable, Valeria, we can feel.
Yes, right, that's correct. We can feel so much more and deeper, right, Susan?
Yeah.
You say, make room in your heart for all of you, the loving, kind, doubting, fearful you, the angry, caring, silly you, the messy, daring, relaxed you, the brave, sad, adorable you. Make room in your heart for all of you, the forgiving, wise, impatient you. Make room in your heart for you, all of you. That's actually the title of this episode. That's how much I loved that one. Yeah, because it's true. We need to do that. Making room in our hearts for ourselves and everything that is in here. And that's the expression of who we are or what we have become. And a lot of times we are kind of doing quite the opposite, right? We are trying to make room for everything else but ourselves.
Right. And also acceptance, right? It's accepting that this is me, all of me. You know, it's the whole package. I sometimes will tell couples when they decide to get married, I said, you're marrying the whole package.
Yeah. Yes.
You're not just marrying that woman who's beautiful then, or that man that's handsome then, or that woman that's laughing then, or that man that's you're marrying the person and the whole package that goes with it. So we are an entire package, but we need to love all of that package that is, because that's what makes us who we are.
And then you say, true, honest laughter brings a moment of healing.
100%, over and over again, over and over again. I have 5 grandchildren.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's 5 reasons to truly laugh.
All the time. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like the best. But that laughter that comes with no judgment, that comes with no, what is someone going to think of me laughing? It is that belly laugh that just comes out because your whole soul is laughing. Your entire soul is laughing. And I can tell you that I know that, when I was sitting Shiva, like I told you before, for my mother, when she passed, I remember sitting there and with my siblings. And at one point, the house was empty and we just sat there laughing. And it was a dose of healing energy. And so I really I think laughter there is probably one of the best doses of healing that I know.
Yes, me too, Susan. And that goes together with being playful. You say that in your book too. I mean, more than one time. There's a passage where you say, when play for you calls, listen, stay with it, enjoy it, reconnect with it. I think you were speaking in this, if I can remember, was about walking around and touching everything around you. Like some people don't like to get their shoes covered with leaves, with grass, like with nature. That's interesting. I have seen that with my husband too, that when we go to the beach, he refuses to go in the sand because doesn't want to get his body dirty. And I was wondering, like, how can you get dirty being in the sand? It's just the most amazing thing.
Right.
So yes, that's interesting, right? Like we have lost the way when it comes to being playful. We have become too serious, most of us humans.
Well, I see it. I think that we're just moments of seriousness, and all we have to do is just allow that playfulness to enter once, and we'll remember the feeling, how good it feels.
So we're almost at the end. It has been a lovely conversation. The heart is open with all these amazing messages and feelings here now. So I have the ending questions for you, but before I ask them, would you like to add anything else or read a passage in your book?
I would love to read a passage from my book. I always find it such a privilege to be able to do that. And I think one of the things that I love is that I have stories and proses and poetry, and then I just have some sentences, or I like to say just, and so what I wanted to share with you today was something that I thought would be appropriate for where we are right now in this realm in the world. Be patient with yourself. Seeds don't grow or blossom in a day. Growth and change are a process. Each stage is of great importance. Each stage counts. Just as each seasonal cycle brings about change and growth to nature, the cycles and seasons within our soul bring about change and growth to our being. Be patient with yourself. Nourish the seeds in your soul. Trust your process of growth. Be patient with yourself.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I remember this one too. Susan, thank you again for what you do, for being you, really. That's what it is. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I wish to you and to all those that will listen to this that they come to experience one happy moment that will evoke the joy that lives within them.
Yes, a trillion times to that. And before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
I have a website, susanplax.com, and you can sign up there to receive morning inspiration. And you can see there where you can purchase the book, or if you just want to learn about me, or just to contact me. I'm always happy to hear from people.
Wonderful. I'll have the link on your podcast profile too. Thank you so much again, Susan, and we'll talk soon.
Have a happy day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Susan Lax and her work, please visit susanplax.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.